We're back. Welcome back to another episode of Pivot with Purpose. It's been a week that I didn't show up, and it was a really big week. We had Ariel last episode, and she's coming back with part 2. Don't you worry. Like I said before, send any emails you want to ask Ariel. That just went viral. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's episode 168. She talked about domestic violence, and it was a huge episode. So if you have questions for Ariel, definitely send them in. She is coming back. It's just, I have been jet setting, baby. I've been working. Honestly, I'm in Atlanta right now at SD Content House with Samia. This entire weekend has been such a full circle moment because I was in LA with No For Sure for 2 days, coming straight here to Atlanta for 2 more days of production. And it's having you, who I've talked about having you on the show since I'm 30. And if you don't know who Samia is, I'll introduce her in a second, or like who she is. But since I'm 30, we've reached out. And you're like, we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it happen. Never did. Became like production partners before anything else. And then Medina coming here, and it's like I met Medina years ago, going on her show. Then there was something you guys said in that episode. It was like, what was it? The Disney Kids. She mentioned
Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
The Mickey Mouse Clubhouse of those kids. We all grew in this space in different ways, right? And seeing Medina going on tour, Mandy on tour and doing big things, you doing this, myself being from on the couch and as a host, but really as a production company behind all these women we did all this together. So we all grew in our own lanes, and it's so beautiful.
It's really cohesive.
It really is. Everything feels like a full circle moment. But Samia is now finally the host of her own show. So not just another sex podcast. I'm sure I've talked about it on the show already before. You see me posting about it, but congratulations on having your own.
Thank you.
How tired is it after 6, 7 episodes this weekend?
I am really tired, but this is the happiest tired I've ever been.
Yes.
It's worth it.
Not like when you come home from I won't even say corporate. I hate when people say like corporate is bad because there's people that love corporate.
Absolutely.
When you hate a job and you come home and you're so tired and you just like take your bra off and you
first of all, that take your bra off is real.
No, it is.
But
you feel like, like I don't want to, why did I do all that? Now it's like you're laying back and you're thinking of the day and how good it went.
Like my mind won't even shut off because I'm like, oh, I could post this and I could do this and just looking at it and like even just this set, like I don't want to get up off of this set. It's like we are recording with my executive producer. The fact that I have an executive producer, I sound like such a grown up.
You are so grown up.
Such a grown up, and not just an executive producer, but like one of the best in the game. And like it just is so true. And just a full circle, like you said, a full circle moment.
Everything's a full circle. I'm gonna get a tattoo that's gonna be like a circle. I've been wanting it now for like 2 years. It's like just a circle the size of a penny.
Give me the idea so I can take it. Let's get one together.
You can I'm
Let's
down
get one together.
with like everyone that has made some things that we look at each other and we're like, man, that came full circle.
Yeah.
May and I have been talking about it you've never met May. Another one of my producers.
Yes, I've heard her name a lot.
Yes. So we've been wanting it because so many things have come full circle. And it just reminds me that I'm walking in my purpose.
Absolutely. 404 creators. When I walked in here and I was like, oh, you did my episode with B.
This video is literally being, shot by Warren 404 Creators, who I launched No For Sure with. Right? And it's like
that's who recorded, yes.
That's who recorded you, and you were on that episode.
Yeah.
It was just so much. So many things are just full circle right now that lets me know this is where you're supposed to be, regardless of how you may feel, how many shifts you've had to make, how many pivots,
See what she did there.
But today, per usual, we're gonna talk about our pivots, how we've gotten here. But there's something in particular with you that I want to talk about because episode 59 of my podcast, I did an episode called an open letter to Mommie, Dearest, and it was an open letter to my mother. I'm not one to shy away from the fact that we have no contact. I don't have a relationship with her for the past 5 years. There was a time frame this past 2022 for about 2 months that there was a reconnection, and I thought it was genuine, and it wasn't. So now that's back to no contact. It was like I had to start all over that journey. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
there was a book that I read. I've read actually twice, and it's Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents.
Whoa.
That book I read years ago, and it's a really, really good book. But on there, it shows us, 4 types of emotionally immature parents and how that may show up. And I'll say those 4, and then I kind of want to go into your story because I feel like you're now sharing more of your story, but there's an aspect of your story we haven't touched on, which is the mom side.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on that here because you're going to be touching on a lot of other things in your platform and other platforms. So one of them is the emotional parent instills feelings of instability and anxiety. So these are for immature parents. The emotional parent, that one instills feelings of instability and anxiety. The driven parent stays busy trying to perfect everything and everyone. Then there's another parent called the passive parent, avoids dealing with anything upsetting, just an avoidant. And the rejecting parent is withdrawn, dismissive, and derogatory. And within this book, and we'll talk about it maybe in a little bit, how this shows up in ourselves as parents, because I have found myself to be one of these parents before. But I've also been parenting for 17 years, starting over again to change it. And now, as a second-time mom, 16 years later, I'm reading this again. It's like, oh, I've done this in the past, and this has been me. So let's go a little bit into your story.
Okay.
I want to start from...
All of those sound familiar, by the way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're like, oh my.
I've experienced all of those.
Wow.
And I'm not talking about like just not giving grace and just, as a parent, you're never going to do everything right. Sometimes you're going to raise your voice. Like that's not, I think that some people think that that's what, when you talk about like emotional abuse and parental abuse and sexual trauma, you're talking about like they're looking for
like
a way
you got in trouble. Oh,
like you got in trouble. You weren't being disciplined. But it's so much more than that.
It's very deep.
It's so much more than that. And even when in Black families, at least for me, in my experience, even when you talk about sexual trauma, the first thing they say is what happened. And they're trying to figure out, was there sex or was there touching? And if there's touching, it's way more acceptable.
It's okay. Oh, I mean, it's not that bad.
It's just, exactly.
It's just, and I always say when you say it's just, it's too much.
Yeah.
It's just, it shouldn't have happened. From your story, you have shared now that you had daddy issues that derive from sexual abuse.
You want me to give the short version?
It's short version, because we're going to go right past it into something else.
Right. Okay, so the short version of my story is that I was being molested by my dad when I was an adolescent. And I did tell my mother, and my mother was like, what do you want me to do? She never said that like I was lying or anything like that. She's like, well, what do you want me to do? And at that age, nothing that a child doesn't want anything more than their family,
right,
or not to be at fault, and also you can read the emotional intelligence that I had as a child. I could tell my mom wanted me to say a certain answer.
You were forced to think like
say,
an adult.
What do you want? Well, I could have said, oh, leave, but I didn't want, as a kid, that's not a natural thing to want. And so my dad blamed it on alcohol, and I believed that until I was 25 years old. And at 25, I had my son, and I was really triggered, and like my life became a trigger, and I didn't know what was wrong, and I almost felt like I was going a little crazy.
Right.
I didn't know what was unsettling. Everything felt questionable, and my child was proof that my parents handled that all wrong, and because of that, I decided to say, you know what, I'm not okay, and the one thing that. And I had never dealt with it properly. We had talked about it multiple times. Right. We brought it up. I never dealt with it properly. But having him, I wasn't about the games anymore. I was like, no, we're going to handle this properly, because I realized that mother coming out of me, it was to protect my child. And you know what? Right. I'm talking about like my marriage ended. I cut off my family. I can't remember the last time. I went home for a funeral. I can't remember the last time I stayed home and I hung out, and I required accountability from myself and from everybody to say, no, we need to handle this differently. And they weren't really ready to do that. They wanted to handle it in their own way.
Are they still ready? Have they been ready?
No, my mom stayed with my dad.
Are they together today?
They are still together today. And I asked, unfortunately, there was more to the story that I found out. I went through extensive therapy, trying to find a way to have them in my life. Like, if you do these things, then we can try to work it out.
Right.
And that was an emotional blanket for myself. That wasn't really the answer, because that's a crime. A crime to molest someone is, not only is it molestation, but it's incest and it's adultery. And
it's a lot.
It's a lot. And there's some things that I could never, I don't know if I ever forgive myself for the the trickle down effect of me not speaking up and handling things properly. And what I knew is that I'm not going to be here one day for my child, and I want to show him that this is how we handle things the correct way. And it's never too late to correct that. And so that's my story.
From that story, we see that there's a dynamic of a relationship that's difficult with your father, and there's a difficult relationship with your mother. And one thing that I still think to this day we don't talk about enough is mommy issues.
Yes.
And a competition with your mother where it feels like it's turbulence with your mom all the time. For myself, I am a spitting image of my dad. We act the same, we talk the same, we were so similar. So we clashed a lot, but that was still my dog, you know?
Yeah.
And I truly to this day believe my mother had these issues with me from when I was yay big because I reminded her so much of him. I remember he would get caught. He was a womanizer and had a lot of women. So whenever he would get caught and she was upset with him, she would take it out on me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, what did I do? I'm not out there smashing anybody. Like, I'm not him.
This is an adult issue.
Correct. And that just happened for years. And it felt like it was this competition. I also, like, when she would talk to me a certain way, my fault that I've been able to look back, and I was always like, I don't want to be like you. You be taken care of, and you can't do nothing for yourself, and you got to wait till he gives you money, and you just home, and you don't have a career, and you're just. I look down on her because I feel like she didn't have a backbone. So that's probably my fault, and I probably showed her that. I not really resented, but if she was so mean to me, I'm like, who are you to be mean to me when you can't do nothing? You know, like you can't go nowhere.
Yeah.
But as an adult, I'm like, wow, there's so many other aspects as to why she might have stayed or not stayed, or her past or what she's been through. But that competition of a mom and a daughter, it's so real.
Yeah.
It's so real. And I found myself with my daughter, not completely, but she just annoys me. She's just a teenager, you know? I think it's a teenage stage. Sometimes she annoys me and I see myself like talking to her a certain way and I'm like, I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Or that wasn't right. Or let me go apologize to her. Let me talk to her a little bit more.
Huge. Apologizing.
Oh my goodness. It's like, and acknowledging that something was wrong. Recently, I was talking to her, and I was like, well, you're going to do this. And she's like, well, it's my life. And then I said, it's your... Put the car keys back, and pack a bag with whatever you've bought, and then if it's your life. And she's like, no, just give me a second, Mom. I just don't want you to tell me what you're doing for me. Can you at least ask me or talk me through it? And you know what? I said, you know what? You're right.
You're right.
I am so sorry. I shouldn't have said it like that. I should have talked to you about it. You are 17. So when I was 17, I didn't have that. I'm looking at my daughter now at 17. Exactly at her age right now, I was 5 months pregnant with her. So it's been really creepy.
That's a super triggering time. That's a super triggering time.
I was 5-6 months pregnant right now where she is. And I look at her and I'm like, I know you don't wipe your ass right. So there is no way you could be in that position. No way. Like, wow. It's crazy to me. Sorry, kid. You're not supposed to be listening, so you're not supposed to know this. Okay, so I want to talk with you as to what that relationship was like growing up with your mom and how that affected you. And I have some things of like how signs of mommy issues, but first I want to hear that story between you and your mom. How you interpret it.
Well, first of all, my mom I thought was my best friend for the longest. And I empathize with my mom. I do.
Nice.
I do. And I do have grace for her, and I love her, and I miss her very much. I feel like I've mourned a living person, and that is hard. But I can't do anything that hurts me because I have to deal with it at home and in private.
How long has it been since you've spoken to her?
A couple years, maybe a year or two. Like there's been a couple messages like here or there texts, and sometimes I would send a picture of my son or something like that. But eventually I just stopped altogether. So growing up, my mom was very mean and harsh, and she used words to hurt and cut. And so I was over-sexualized at a young age. Everything, and what I noticed, the biggest thing was that she treated me differently than she treated my other sister. And my other sister was like more overweight or more of a chunkier kid. And I just felt like because I was slimmer at the time or whatever, that she over-sexualized me as if I was going to be fast and I was going to be this and I was going to be that. And it's like, I didn't learn about sex until you mentioned or tried to, you know, every time I like have a headache or stomach, are you pregnant? Or like, I'm not even having sex, you know? She's the one who made me think that if I sleep with a friend that you're being a whore and it's misleading, and you
like
know, so
sleeping as in like going to sleep.
having sex. Like when I got older in high school and I had male friends, it was like, are you having sex with them? And it was like, why are you thinking that? Like, I'm not even thinking about that. It was difficult watching her be more upset with me having consensual sex with someone my age than you were upset about my dad touching me. The fact that like it just didn't make sense. And so what I do resent the most from my mother is that not only do I have a dad and that's a parent that violated me and, you know, fucked with my trust.
Right.
But I don't even have you to fall back on, because now it's deception from both parents. And so now as an adult, I'm struggling with being, not vulnerable, but like where people can take advantage of you easily and you can't read the difference between things.
You don't trust yourself.
I've dealt with that for so long, like just gaslighting myself, because for years, because we talk about it, we tell those children that we handled it properly because we discussed it.
Here are 10 things actually that can help you, because if you're listening to this, you're probably like, do I have mommy issues? Because we yearn for that mom.
We do. But she was, to me, it was a lot of emotional manipulation, because you listen to me when you're in a good mood and say, these are the things that make you feel special. And I'm listening to you and I feel heard and seen, and we hug it out. And now when there's a problem, it's like, give me a hug, I love you. And then when you're upset, you're saying the most hurtful things to me that I should never even hear. Like even now when I'm mad at someone, I will say, you know what? You don't need to hear my thoughts. That would be unkind. Like, let me feel how I feel, and then let's come back and talk about it, because I've been that type of hurtful. Like,
and that's growth.
It's a part of my the loss of my marriage. Like me picking up those things and not seeing that anything was wrong. Like, yeah, it takes two to fuck up a marriage, but
of course.
Women are some of the most verbally abusive people, because we've learned to fight with our mouth, because we can't overpower men with our hands. Yeah. And I experienced that, and it's just
we have, ridiculous. And sometimes it's not even through words. So 10 signs of mommy issues specifically in women. Neediness in relationships. So if your mother was emotionally distant and did not meet your needs for care and affection, you're likely to cling to your partner to provide this. Difficulty expressing affection. So we learn a lot about relationships from our parents. So if your mom was emotionally cold, you might also struggle to show affection. This can lead to problems in intimacy in adult relationships. So just that cold, don't know how to show affection.
My mom was cold. My mom withheld affection when she was upset with us. And I struggle with disciplining my child. And I have to think about it. Like sometimes I'll call his dad and tell him the scenario and say, is this how I handle this? And he was like, you know, you should know that. And I was like, do you remember my mom? And he was like, my bad. You're right. Like, cause he remembers just stories like, this is what happens when you're in trouble. And like they used to take away food when we were in trouble. Oh, wow. Or we would have to eat one thing, like super old leftovers. And then we would eat, like, then we're giving as a reward, like the scraps from what they ate, something as they cook something different. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of, I honestly, sometimes I just feel like they treated us like dogs. If I'm being honest. And so they were very affectionate. You know, like
probably
my
when it was convenient to them.
When it was convenient. And so on days that they were in a good mood, I had a good day. And days they were in a bad mood, we were like, everything, it's almost like you have no control of your own life, so you're trying to control us. And not just as a parent, but my mom was very cold when she was upset with us, or she wanted us to do something, or and when things did not go her way. I have a...
or when you didn't do what they wanted you to do.
Yes. I had a situation where I did like a hypnotherapy to figure out which moment did I start questioning my self-worth and deciding that being less was better than being more. Okay. And the scenario brought out a memory of, and I wrote about this like in my journal when I was little, like so many times, but I was in a spelling bee. And I woke up and I was like, oh, I put on my little dress with the flowers, like, you know, about to be in front of the school, because I didn't won the classroom spelling bee, and I'm about to be in the big school spelling bee. And my mom didn't feel good. She woke up and she didn't feel good. And she was like, oh, you should stay home with me, and, you know, you can make me some soup and we can lay in bed and watch movies all day. And for a child that gets a cold mom all the time, and all you do is like disciplining us, like, yes, you tell us you love us, but you also over discipline us to the point that even the discipline doesn't match the action to that point. And I was like, I really want to go to this thing because you see me now. I'm very much so overachiever, like a follow through, like loving to like be in the spotlight, especially for something that I deserve. And so I went to the spelling bee. When I came back, she was super cold. It was like, you could take off that dress now. It's time to clean the house. And so we used to have to pull out all the dishes. Like as a punishment, she was just like, no, all the dishes just need to be clean. Every dish in the house. I just bought a house. You know how many dishes that is? Every dish in the house. And
I would not have one dish in my house today. I would make sure the kitchen
and I tell people
like,
all the time, some of the things that I don't like to do, it has nothing, like I have a cleaner. I can't wash dishes good to this day. Like, so things like that. And so what that specific scenario taught me was, one, I get more love if I do less and I don't overshine. So like I had to learn the balancing act of not being too amazing, but being like the best of the average people. And that's what my life looked like up until 5 years ago. I was one of the best of the average people, but it was not really what was best for me or my potential. And I found that I feel like my mom resented me. And I also feel that living in a house where your husband is sexually attracted to me and being told to put on certain clothes, it was a shock to me to go to other friends' houses and they're walking around in like short shorts or like a crop top. And I'm like, you're allowed to wear that in your dad's home? And like that, and they're like,
it's my dad.
It's my dad. Like, it doesn't matter. And I wasn't allowed to wear that type of stuff if my dad was home or whatever. And so I thought that that's how you're supposed to act around men. And just all of the ideologies that this is, and hold your man down. Like I watched her stay for everything. Stay for everything.
Does that made you feel, because when I think of that, you say that, my mom would stage through a lot. Like all these women, you were so mad, throwing brooms at him and cussing and crying, coming to us, because I was her soundboard every time she went into it.
And being their
every
soundboard.
time my dad and her got into it, she would come to me to tell me all the things my dad did. And I just remember saying, well, leave him.
See, for me, it created a relationship. I just wanted some type of relationship, period. And if I was your soundboard, at least you were nice to me then. And it also was manipulative because you're creating empathy. The reason that they take your kids away when something like this is happening is because you create Stockholm Syndrome. And so I say for the longest that I had, and I'm still working through Stockholm Syndrome because I love my abusers. Until I was 25, until I had a kid, I didn't realize how fucked up there is shit that like I would kill somebody if they had did to my child. Like you would have to see me.
Absolutely. Like every time I read those reports that someone was molesting a kid and they walked down on them and shot him,
I'm like, what's up?
I just go, okay, what's the point of the story?
All right.
Everybody should just keep going about their lives, and that's it.
I will say that I did hold one thing I do love about myself is that I do have grace because I get it. Yeah. I did not do the same thing that she did, but in my marriage, I was willing to commit to the mistake. At some point, I realized this man does not like me. He doesn't like me. And I was committing to it. So how was I any different than my mom staying in something where you're not supposed to be? And so for me, it's the integrity. I can't blame them, and I can, but to me, I can't blame them for not being who they're supposed to be if I'm not going to be who I'm supposed to be. I'm going to show, like, it's hard.
But I think we also live in this space of like, I have to do things for me and what's right. Like, I really want to be not right, but do the right thing.
I do want
because
to do the right thing.
With my first marriage, only marriage. I was like, I didn't get to the altar. My first marriage, which is Ayana's dad, I was young. And I remember being told from the church, like, you don't get divorced. You got to stay there. I stayed. But finally I was like, 25, get me the fuck out of here. I don't want to do this with you. Please. I was 17. I really don't fuck with you like that. Like, we have nothing. Nothing. I have nothing in common with you. But my grandma wants me to powder up my pussy literally at night and give it to him and make sure I shower every night. I don't want to shower every night. Yeah, I'm like, why are you walking to my grandpa with a white vagina? Like, powder. I didn't get the whole powder thing. That was to call it talco. I don't know what it was. Like, whatever. She's like, take a shower every night.
Baby
I don't want to shower
pussy.
every night. I don't want to have sex every night. I don't want to. My grandma would do her hair, and my mom, and like they like served their husbands. My grandma would pull my grandfather out of his side bitches' houses. My mom would have the phone calls with them, and I'm like, I didn't experience cheating with my first husband, but I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And if I'm not happy, I don't want to be there. And they're
enough.
like, well, no, you got married. And I'm like, well, I don't care. That's the first time that I left the church because I felt like, I'm like, oh, well, second time. First, I got pregnant. They were like, eh. Then they accepted me because I was married. Then I wanted to take a divorce. And they're like, eh. Yeah. So I left for a little while then. But then as more of an adult from 25 to 35,
right.
Then I go into this, relationship and I have this baby and it's this family. We're not married, but we're about to get married. And I stayed, I think, 8 months too long. 8 months too long. And it's just 8 months. No, man, that was the longest 8 months because I was so much more aware of me and the fact that I want to live better than what my parents did.
Yeah.
I want to do better than what my mother did. And it's like, I want to learn from her mistakes. I wish she could go back and say and give grace to herself and at least attend therapy. I've asked, let's do therapy together. Let's figure this out. I don't want to sweep this shit under the rug because you keep doing the same thing over and over to me. And people will be like, well, how can you just cut off your mom? It is the hardest thing to do.
It was.
It's like, for me, it's my entire brother, sister, mother. It's so much harder to have no contact with them than it is to just be there and just get, some emotional abuse.
But see, for me, it's like, I want to like who I am when no one else is around.
Right.
And when I stay in those things, it makes it easier for me to stay in other things with other people. Because if I'm allowing my parents to do anything and my mom to do anything to me, it makes it so much easier for me to allow it from someone else. Because the very base of my trust and all of that is built on something that's false and wrong and everything. So
I get it. So I get it. Some of the side effects of mommy issues are, this is the first one we just talked about, a feeling of self-doubt. Yeah. You're always doubting yourself. Difficulty maintaining intimate relationships, multiple failed relationships. Shit. When this last one of mine didn't work out, I'm like, well, damn.
Yeah.
Am I the problem? Am I the fucking... How am I improving and getting better? And this is happening. I realized that I was choosing someone that reminded me and filled the void of my mom. They're very similar. Yeah. They're very similar people. And it's like, oh, I was getting from him what I wasn't getting from her. And he filled that void. Then it's like showed me that. I'm like, oh, y'all niggas is the same people.
See, I found that the thing that they passed off to me was that I was able to love anybody. I was able to love anybody.
As long as you loved me a little bit.
What'd you say?
As long as you loved me a little bit, I loved you back. It's like, just give me some love.
If you give me something, at first it was if you give me something to hold on to, I'm so thirsty and needy for attention that I feel special, right? Mm-hmm. But also I realized that they were grooming me for the bare minimum to be enough. And I just, my mom was just so much like, no, my man does this for me, does that for me, da, 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 da. And now that I'm older, I watched her resent the things that he wouldn't do. So it'd be like, I don't need flowers every day, da, da, da. I don't even like flowers like that. But then I watched when he would bring home flowers and how she turned into silly putty and how she just loved it. So it's like, you don't like it because you can't get it. And so then I grew up like, no, I don't need a man to open my door. I don't need to da, da, da. Like, that's how I was back in the day. And you were trying to be so strong because you can't get that man to do it if you want to. So now you try to act like you don't want that thing. And so you're stripping yourself of your femininity over and over and over. And so now I'm going into relationships and I can't pull the type of man that I actually desire because he wants a woman that values herself. And I'm showing up as a woman who does not value herself. Yeah. I can love anybody. I've loved my abuser. Therefore, anybody is better than that. Right. Anybody is better than that. And so I had to stop dating completely. I had friends that were using me. I had relationships that were using me. And so I just stopped. I was like, bitch, you're the problem. So it might have been their fault why I'm getting here.
But now my lack of boundaries is getting me there.
My lack of boundaries is a problem. And if that affects my kid, then that's a big ass problem. Yeah. And that's one thing. So I went to therapy for years. Like the amount of therapy and intensity that I committed to changing my life, because I was like, okay, I'm the problem now. And what I'm not going to feel is shame because I didn't do this. But I am going to be responsible for what happens now. I'm talking about apologies to my ex-husband. Like, hey, this part that I played, I apologize for that. Like, thinking that certain things were okay, that's not. And now it's still a little uncomfortable being this type of woman. But now everything that I desire, everything that I really want seems real. Right. But before, I had a ceiling on my own happiness, my own pleasure, because it doesn't even seem real in the house that I grew up in.
And the people that are coming around you, one common theme that I keep hearing, probably for the past 6 months, every time my friends meet each other, and it's like, or a new client that become friends, and people that come around, they're like, wow, this person's great too. Wow, this person's great. Wow, they fit just right in. Yeah. I'm attracting now a completely different type of person.
You're attracting what's in you now.
Correct. What I'm putting out now, it's like I'm talking about it. I'm, open. I am secure into what I want. Do I fuck up? Yes. Do I have dark days? Yes.
Ooh, my dark days be dark.
Yeah, girl. Ugh. It was like before God said, let there be light. Just no light anywhere. It just gets really dark. Ooh. But regardless of that, people are coming into my life, and it seems like, and some will say they're falling onto my lap. But let me be very clear. Nothing is falling into my lap. I have been working for years. Same for you. You're like, oh my God, all these opportunities are opening up. All these doors are opening. And it's not because it's just, they're opening. It's because you've done all this work and you've been planting these seeds for years, and now they're growing. So, shit, I have such bad ADHD. When they show me the fucking time,
It's definitely like even a cause and effect. And I think that we're not looking at the full picture.
Right.
When you were fucking up, you were getting a whole bunch of fucked up things. Like when you were giving too much before and paying for things and being a sugar mama and I love you, so I bought you this, and now you're getting affection from somebody, you're going to attract the type of people that you do. That's the cause and effect. But like when you start talking about things you're talking about, the people that's on that bullshit, they're going to walk away. They're going to be bored. They're going to be like, this is boring. Like da-da-da-da-da.
Anybody around me right now that wants to soak in their misery and do not want to choose to do better. And don't get me wrong, again, there are days when you're going to be depressed.
Absolutely.
There are days when you're just going to be like, shit is not working out. But I have to be around people that are like, okay, now what is the game plan? Yeah. And if I don't know how to do this game plan, who am I going to ask to get it done? Because I'm ready. I'm like, I want to do this. All right, I can't do a website. Who am I going to hire?
Yeah.
Where am I going to find the funds to get this website
Delegating,
done?
asking for help.
Yes. Or when I have a new client and they're like, they're in Atlanta, who am I going to call? Boom, let me make this phone call. Let me make this connection. Let me figure it out. I'm not this, but I can get it done. Same thing with my emotions. I don't feel good. What am I going to turn to? Like, we all turn to different things. I turn to listening to sermons or reading a book or reading the Bible. I've turned to, at some point, to tarot and to human design and to therapy. I've tried it all because something has to work.
Something is
going to click.
To find something. For me, I didn't want to live, and I knew that that's not an option, right? There was one scenario where I was with my son and I had to tell his dad, like, you got to come get him, because I was feeling like I don't want to be here, and I need time. And so I've definitely done a lot.
How long ago was that?
Maybe like right before 2020. The pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I had left my parents, and I was I came home, and this is when I was like, you know what, finally I'm done. I'm done with them. And I went home, and I was like, hey, I need you to I need you to come and get him for the holiday. Things didn't work out. And I sat in a bar, and I just cried, and I drank myself. And I was like, hopefully I won't wake up. Like, hopefully I won't wake up. Oh, thank you, darlings. Thank you, sugar. Mm-hmm. Like, hopefully I won't wake up. And I was just like, I don't ever.
Next morning?
That next morning, that's what I was hoping. I don't even know how I got home that night. I never found out how I got home that night. I don't know if I Ubered, I guess. Maybe the bar called one. I don't know. But loving them and keeping them in my life was making me not want to live. And so I too have done a lot of, I've done EMDR therapy, I've done trauma therapy, I've done astrology, I've done hypnotherapy, I've done acupuncture, like you name it, I've done it, because the alternative is not an option.
And some of you guys right now, I'll stop you if you're thinking, I can't afford any of that. Where am I going to find money? When there's a will, there's a way.
Let me tell you though, when you don't have money, because I did not have money when I started this process. Okay. And so you're sometimes looking at the bigger picture, and you need to look at a smaller chunk. So for me, it was just, what do I not like about myself? Let's just work on that. And I started losing weight. Just that thing. And I promise you, what happens in life is that no one's going to show you everything. After you do something, it shows that you're ready for the next thing. And I started losing weight, and I met one of my guardian angels, like my friend Dearest, and she's been with me ever since I started losing weight. And she's here, and she did the first episode of my podcast.
Cause I be crying too, and
I can't help it.
It's cool. I love crying. Okay, go.
I know, right? I feel good. And so, like, the universe will meet you halfway, but you have to take that first step by yourself. And you don't have to do the biggest thing, but what's one thing I could do today? But what really changed for me is when I decided I'm going to stop talking to myself like my mother. And so I started I'm being kinder to myself and giving myself more grace and really treating myself a way that I wish someone had treated my mom, you know, and just trying to relax. And trying to love myself, because if I say, oh, I hate when I do this and all the time, why do I not like things about me?
Right.
Just.
And what can you do to fix it?
What can I do to fix it? Why do I not like it because someone else didn't like it? Like, asking deeper questions and putting the resources in place to deal with the answer when you ask them.
This is very intentional. What I'm hearing is that all of this is intentional. It didn't fall into your lap. Doing the work is 100 times, I wouldn't say 10, 100 times harder than staying in the toxic cycle.
It's so much harder.
But the thing is that the reward, so you can be either in this depressive state and staying in a toxic cycle, and for it to just be easy and it's just like, whatever, I can just cruise control through this, right? And just, you're being miserable, but it's just what you're used to. Or you can go through this and it'd be hella hard, but then blessings just start pouring. And there's a song by Chance, I believe it's Chance the Rapper, called Blessings. And I love this song because it just kept saying, like, blessings just keep pouring in, something along those lines. I'm like, if you can find the lyrics, Steph, and like airdrop them to my computer.
That's how I feel about Cardi B's Living My Best Life. And she's like, went from small ass apartments to walking red carpets. Like, when you listen to the lyrics, it's like, okay, like, I'm talking about the rose that came from the concrete. And that's how I feel. Like, y'all can't get me to stop talking my shit, popping my collar right now and looking in the mirror. Like, I am falling in love with me, and it's the sexiest thing I've ever done in my life.
No, absolutely. Like, here he goes, when praises go up, the blessings come down. It seems like blessings keep falling in my lap. When praises go up, the blessings come down. And I know you're spiritual and you have all these things. For me, of course, it's God. It's like, when I praise him, when I go to church and I say, you know, Lord, I want more. I'm here. I surrender. I'm yours. All of a sudden, these blessings start coming down. And all of a sudden, everybody thinks that they're just falling on my lap, but they're not seeing that I've been on my knees. They're not seeing that not everybody, you got to fall on your knees.
Yeah.
There were plenty of times, and I've said this when I was in Jersey and things got dark and it was in the middle of really bad things, I got on my knees. Get on your knees.
Yeah.
There's something so powerful to that. Just,
it's so getting spicy in here, y'all. It's like somebody cutting onions. It's not us.
It must be that big ass
We're
kitchen
just some gangsters,
onions.
you know what I'm saying? It's just, this is what gangsters do. Gangsters cry, because that's really
right.
the thuggest thing you could do is cry. We in here getting misty to the motherfucker.
No, but it's just that. And the healing journey will begin, right? There's a healing journey for all of us. So I have some ways that maybe you can become aware of everything and start the healing process of mommy issues, because we do have some letters. So we're going to move on. And I want to talk about this more, throughout all of
You
this.
act like you're going to get rid of me. I'll be back. I'll be back, you guys.
She'll be back for sure. But it's just, I identify folks that have had daddy issues, but not too many people have started the healing process of dealing with mommy issues. So some of that would be become aware of the problem. The first step is to just really understand, bitch, you got mommy issues.
Yeah.
Your mom wasn't there. And again, giving them grace. I now look back to my mom's relationship with her mom and I'm like, damn.
She did so much better with you probably than her mom did with her.
Probably, yes.
And you know what I learned? Because for the longest, I was like, you know what? My life is better than what my mom's life was.
Yes.
And also realizing my mom is a victim in a lot of different ways.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, none of those excuses are going to protect my child. And so
none of it's going to help me grow.
It's not. And learning to have criticism and love. And so I think about some of the ways that my friends have talked to me when I was doing shit that just was not appropriate, wasn't right, not a reflection of
you let
of
anybody
worth.
do bullshit.
But it's still holding yourself accountable. Like, this isn't right. Like, I understand this, but I don't understand enough past accountability. Like, if you can't have the accountability to make change, then all you're saying is words to me. That's all you're saying is words. And
I won't take words anymore.
I demand more. And so I'd rather miss my mother than to constantly be hurt by what I can't handle it feels like neither of my parents chose me. Mm-hmm. It feels like neither one of them loved me enough to not do this. So you got my dad that, loving, hell, you're loving too much, if anything.
A little too much love.
And then you have my mom that, you pick this relationship ultimately over me. And you know what that made me feel? It made me look at my current relationships at that time when I realized it. And I said, I'm choosing these relationships over my purpose. And my purpose is my baby. So am I choosing a man over my baby?
I'm so proud of you because fuck, I couldn't imagine both. One of my parents feeling like that and losing the other one because I've been mourning. My dad's, it's about to be 7 years. So I had a great relationship with my dad. Toxic. I can look back. Just using my ass beat. Really bad. Like, damn. We used to fight and get into it. As toxic as it could have been, not perfect, that was my dog, right? And I knew that my dad loved me when I got into a fight with some dude. I called him, I broke the window. My dad was there in 2 seconds. Yeah. You know, no matter what, when I got pregnant at 17, I thought my dad would be super upset. The first thing he did was hug me and tell me, I'd rather hear this than you were dead.
Yeah.
You know? So having it from both, I want to tell you, man, you've come a long way. And whatever it is that you believe in, not many will get to where you are. They will choose misery, they will choose to stay in that pattern, and they will choose not to grow. And it doesn't matter what method you're choosing to learn yourself. You're 30, you're hella young to have started this process 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because my process didn't start till after 30.
Yeah.
You know, of therapy. Now I'm about to be 36. So same amount of time, but you started at 25?
And see, with my siblings, I'm like, you guys are starting this earlier. And like their relationship with my parents is different.
They're much younger?
Not much younger. I have a younger sister that's 5 years younger than me. Okay. And then the younger sister that's 3 years younger than her. And then
okay, so they're
yeah, and then my little brother is like 17. But you know, the biggest things that outside of me doubting myself and being gullible, because believing my parents made me gullible, right? Overall,
but they're your parents,
right? And so my initial trust has been broken with people. So what I've learned is I give a lot, but I never really trust anyone. So now I'm just being used, but I don't really know how to trust others. But also the way that my relationship changed with my siblings, like with my little brother and him growing up around the misogyny of molestation by a parent being okay, and we should have handled this as a family. His beliefs are like that because he stayed around them, and that makes me feel like, well, part of that is because I did not raise a bigger fuss. And so now when people say I'm extra, or when I say I'm extra, I damn sure am. Because
well, are you extra, or are they just so small?
Or is this just me? This is what makes me happy, and I'm not going to. I spent 25 years thinking that my life was something that it wasn't. I spent 6 years in a marriage with someone who didn't care for me and didn't care for how I acted as a result of what I've learned and what I thought was okay. Like, I love that he left. It was the first example of someone choosing them. So when my parents were trying to make it seem like he was bad for leaving, I was like, if he's not happy, isn't that good? Like, I was on his side. I was like, yo, that's hella dope of you. If there was nothing else, him leaving me was the best example of choosing yourself first. And after that, I started doing it for me. And I love, and now my child gets to see two happy parents versus two parents trying to stay together for him. And I do resent the relationship with my siblings, but I deserve a good life because I was born.
And you do. And it's so hard to accept that. For us, I don't know why it's so hard to accept it.
And I do have a strong belief in spirituality, but I do believe in God. It's just me and God. God has to understand that I love him, but religion and what the church has become did not save me.
So that's one thing that I will tell you. The church can be very harmful when we go for the people of the church. Because the Bible definitely says, honor your mother and father. Where in the Bible does it tell me that when my mother and father do not respect me, when they violate me, for me to go? It's like sometimes the church forgets to let us know they're not all good mothers and fathers. Yeah. They're all not Mary and Joseph.
They use forgiveness as you have to look past, forgive, but don't forget, and stuff like that.
And I think that's old school church, though.
And more than that, I'm not mad at
church.
See, the thing is, I'm not mad at church. But what I do know is that my dad is a deacon or was a deacon. Through this time, like a deacon. And at the end of the day, the answers of what could heal my soul was not found in the church. But church is still in me and God is in me. And you know it when you talk to me. You still say, I love on you all and I tell you how much I appreciate you and kindness. And everything that I learned in the church is absolutely being shown. But going to the church did not make me fix the feeling that I don't want to live. But spirituality, which is nothing but the root of self. spirituality and just getting back to how I was when I was first born before my parents fucked me up is what I'm trying to get back to. And so if I love God and I respect him, absolutely. But I love my spirituality and I respect that as well. And anybody that has a problem with me not saying, well, God, I don't say God for everything, but God is in me.
And you are a woman of God regardless. There is a spirit within you. There is a character in you. There is a way you walk. And there are a lot of people, and the same way there's like extreme Islam, there is so is in Christianity.
Absolutely.
And I was born in the church. My grandfather was a pastor, and that man was toxic. I just told you my grandma was pulling him out of his side chick's house.
Those who don't,
those
who don't teach.
One of the things that it's like, absolutely keep following your spirituality, but know that the church is not perfect. The church has made many mistakes. And it's like, it's all about the relationship that we have with God and Jesus and how you choose to have that and you really knowing him, not just an Instagram post, you know? And that's when I said, get on your knees and really say, right now, I wear this from the church. We're doing a prayer first, and it's like a fast. I'm on my 21-day fast. But I wanted to learn how to pray better, and I'm like, I kind of pray messy.
That's crazy. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm a good prayer.
I'm a good prayer. I be talking to God like, what's up, JC? You know, like, I'm here today. You know what I'm about. So today, you know, and sometimes I don't feel like, because you watch some of those prayer warriors and the way their words come out and they sound like a beautiful song from Psalms. And I'm like, that's not really me. But I wanted to flow a little bit, and there are ways for you to practice. But then I also realized I'm not practicing prayer like I should. You know, but now that I am not watching television, holding back from some things, like when I find those times that I'm bored or anxious, I'm like, well, what I have to lean to is prayer. What would that look like? Reading about it. So you just get better with that. But whatever does help you to want to still stay here, to do better, to grow, to be a better person, despite of what anyone has done to you, then do that.
Yeah.
Because there's so much other things that we could go into, like drugs, sex, just weird things out there in the world that just aren't conducive to our growth and that really stunt us. And we think we're doing better because, we're so liberated here. But it's like, are you using that as a vice as well? And not you, I'm saying like anybody.
Well,
like,
I did. I was an alcoholic. And that's the thing. Everybody sees what's happening now, but I did become a version of my parents. Mm-hmm. So changing that.
And being aware of it. That's why the first thing about healing is becoming aware.
For me, I wanted to be able to tell my child, you are worth every change that I need to go through. Because what I feel like my parents didn't do, what I feel inside is that, and the thing I battle with and I'm healing through consistently, you know, sometimes it comes back up, is feeling like I wasn't worth it for them to do the right thing. Yeah. I was a child that wasn't worth it. And I know better. I know that has nothing to do with me. But I need him to know that you are worth every change that I've had to go through. And he's made my life better. And I need him to know that. And if nothing else, there's a lot of things I don't know. If he knows that, then hopefully I can help him get through anything. Because if I can get through it without...
But it's also showing him that we're not perfect. But we're willing to evolve. We're willing to change because we're doing it for us. That way we can make them better. Yes. There's some... Girl, stop. Because we can talk for 17 hours. And we ain't got time for that shit. We're going to... So we're going to go... I'm going to link there... all of this is coming from marriage.com. And it's a article that I found where it's all about mommy issues, and it's like identifying it, fixing it, side effects, and it explains them. That's where I got it, so I'll link it to the description so you guys can, you know, go through it. There's so many more that we didn't go through, but just remember boundaries. We're gonna go into our letters. We were gonna go through. What time we on, Stephanie? Just kidding. Okay, we're going to script our questions.
Just kidding.
Just know, well, we touched on it a little bit. You know, we've been on our healing journey for about the same amount of time, about 5 years, 5-6 years. Let's see, letters. If you want advice, if you want a letter, you can hit me up and send them to askcarlabomers@gmail.com. Askcarlabomers@gmail.com. Do we want to do one, since we're at 48, about relationships, someone feeling a little jealous and breaking up, or difficult history with parents? That would go with the thing, but I kind of want to do relationship. Let's see how much time we have after this one. Okay. So it says, please help. We're here. I recently had a situation in which I feel I could have communicated better with my partner. This is a guy. About dropping off a friend. We have been together 5 years, and a few days ago, We had sort of a high school reunion with old friends from when I was a teen. For reference, my partner has trust issues from a previous relationship, and sometimes it's projected onto me. So I'm with my friends, and we end up staying late at one guy's place. As everyone is leaving, one of my friends says she will Uber. We live in a little unsafe part of the country, and for a woman to Uber at night when you can drop her off seemed like a no-brainer to me. I offered a lift, and she agreed. Now, at the same time, I was texting my girlfriend that we are leaving, and after this text, we stayed a little bit longer, and I agreed to drop this friend off. We left about 20 minutes after I texted her. Now I end up dropping my friend and getting home about an hour after I texted her for the first time. When I get home, I said I dropped off some people. We left in the little, all of us a convoy of cars, and people turned off at their stops. My partner lost it and said I have no business dropping off a lady in the dead of night, especially since I did not tell her or ask her if it's okay to do so. She accused me of sleeping with this woman, even though she has seen someone else.
That escalated fast.
Right. I said that escalated.
Escalated very quickly.
0 to 60. She accused me of sleeping with this woman, even though she's seen someone else and is the ex of a close friend of mine. She said I should have texted before leaving, saying, babe, I'm dropping off a friend just so you know. I agree, my communication could have been better, but when you're out having fun, do you think sharing every detail then or after? My question is, would you be okay with a man dropping off a female friend, not a stranger, at night? When I read this, I was like, wow, your girl was me. That was me. All day long, like, you did what? You shook a girl's hand? How dare you? I was so controlling with that, right? It's like, what are you doing? Because I was so insecure that if you were giving somebody else attention and not me, you wanted them, you didn't want me. It's like, oh my God, wait. Because now I think back, I'm like, when as a child, just like if they gave the attention to somebody else, they were mad at me. There was something else there. I wasn't enough. Yeah. So yes, I felt that way. And my thing is, he did say that she had trust issues from a previous relationship. And I don't think he did anything wrong here.
No, I and mind you, I'm coming in this as a sexual educator, right? So this is what I do. I talk about relationships, all that stuff. And I, too, have also been there in the past. And what I've noticed, and even really trying to relate it back to the parenting, I saw my mom be super overprotective and super defensive and things like that, but also because my dad was not trustworthy.
Right.
And so then I looked at my marriage, and I mean, there was even a point where I was, and mind you, Dara has been my friend for almost 15 years. Yeah. Well, hell, 10 long as hell. She been my friend for long as hell.
She looking up like, get the date right.
Yes.
It was January 13th at 2:57.
And I remember I had to apologize to her after my marriage because I remember I would feel intimidated by what she had on. And mind you, Dara, if you know Dara been dressed in the same way since I ever met her. And it never was a problem, except I was around someone who I didn't trust. And it wasn't because he wasn't trustworthy. It was because I saw that you liked other people more than me, which made me feel intimidated. Right. But also, you didn't like them more. You were treating them like regular people, but I was your wife, and I wasn't even getting that. Ultimately, you did not like me.
Right.
So anything more than you treated me, if I'm supposed to be your wife and supposed to be the top, felt like, oh, you like them. No, you don't like them. You just don't like me. Mm-hmm. So there was the accountability of that. But for this young lady, one, you know that she has trust issues, but you bending to them is not going to help her because you're enabling the insecurity. At the end of the day, yes, you're right. Because something maybe is different from you all's routine, communicating that should be great. But guess what? She should be able to say, hey, like, I totally understand that did make me a little uncomfortable. Are you able to maybe let me know this next time or something like that? But at the end of the day, a lot of people don't want to be in relationships because they feel like now they have to be controlled. If I love you, I'm going to consider you. But what is the level of perfection that you're looking for?
Like, you came home and told her what you did, and I think that's great.
And also, wow. What I learned is that if you want to date a gentleman, he has to be able to be a gentleman all the time, not just be a gentleman to you. Especially if it's a friend. And also, why are you sexualizing that woman? Why are you even going there? Is that because in another world he could say, well, if you're accusing me of this, is it because you're doing it? Like, so it's going all wrong. But ultimately, letting her get away with not taking accountability for her insecurity issues or doing anything actively to fix that and making you pay for it is only going to make you resent the next relationship. And you guys aren't going to work, or you're going to commit to this for the rest of your life. Right now, you're saying yes by staying in it, not correcting it. And I need you to don't say that you're doing anything that you're not. If you're not being deceptive and it's like, hey, I communicate well with you. We stayed a little bit longer. It was 20 minutes and that ended up being long because of the ride, but I did tell you what was going on. And this makes me uncomfortable. If I can't go out with my friends, then we need to talk. This isn't working for me. But the longer that you sit in it and you say that this isn't working for you, now you're a part of the problem. So you need to speak up. And if you guys need help as in a relationship, get that. But guess what? There is not enough help in the world for your relationship if she's not going to get that help individually. And so if you love her, then you know there's a better life than how she's feeling of this anxiety of mistrust. So it might blow up, but if it blows up, it's simply because it's not, there's something else.
It's a form of manipulation as well. I will actually share this. I was sent this morning, and I shared it with Stephanie because some people will make you try to see things their way, and most likely she doesn't even give you that respect from that letter. It's like, well, tell me what you did. Most likely she'll probably be dropped off somewhere by some nigga and won't even tell you.
Ooh, the same one, because you know that you caused it. Yeah.
Right. So I was sent this today.
Also, I just hate the controllingness.
Hold on.
Baby, I'm asking.
So when you get sent that, it's like, huh? There's so much more. That was 20 seconds of someone. So what is her husband doing for her that allows her to say, I trust him blindly? I said, if he tells me don't go there, that means for her maybe that she really trusts what he's saying. And I don't think he's telling her, don't go to work. I don't think he's telling her, don't go to the store. Don't go hang out with your friends. Maybe it's a really bad situation that he feels bad and he's probably like, you know what, babe? Maybe today is not the day to go there. Mm-hmm. And you might trust him enough to say, you know what, that's right. But that's not an everyday thing.
I feel that sometimes we say things that aren't necessary. And
that was so unnecessary.
It was very unnecessary because if I'm with a partner that I'm truly compatible with, I'm not looking to I want you to be yourself.
Yeah.
The truth is, you being yourself may not work for me. But if you're being yourself and you say, this is how I deal with things, like when you go out with friends, and I see how you respond, I don't want to change that. Like in the past I have, and that doesn't work, telling people like, actually, I don't like that. Like if it, like there's some, like a little bit of compromise.
Of course, because the things, when you're single and you're alone, some things will change in a relationship. You will adjust certain things, but
also men
drastically.
But what's wild is like, it's not really men saying the same thing, because at the same time they're like, I'm not asking you not to do anything. I'm not, like, sometimes people are like, my man is my man, or I ain't doing, I can't have no friends of the opposite sex, and y'all loud and proud with it. But at the end of the day, y'all both have that same belief. So saying that it's not right and that's the same thing, that's just something y'all both are not comfortable with. And so y'all should, like, that's good that y'all compatible in that way. For me, that's not the case. I got a male best friend. I'm not changing all those things, but I'm gonna always be how I am, because I definitely don't want nobody talking about some. And I don't want you telling me what to do.
You can't go there. What? How about a conversation? Hey, I feel this way about this place, or I can't see anyone telling me don't do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, we're grown, and that's why.
Go get a dog. Go get a motherfucking dog. Because I'm not it. I don't woof woof. And I'm only on all
like
fours.
Being told what to
very
do. You tell me what not to do, and most likely now I'm gonna do it just because you told me not to do it.
Or I'm just not gonna fuck with you, or I'm gonna walk away. Because I don't want to be told, especially when I know I'm a damn good person.
Yeah.
And when you know that you're not doing anything from a negative standpoint or trying to just.
If you can't understand it, if you can't understand that I'm this way, then just walk away from it, you guys. Because if they're not cool with it, or they're like the male best friend thing, for example, a lot of people are like, I'm not okay with that. And so if I date someone and they're like, I'm not okay with my woman having a male best friend, then I'm not going to date you, because I'm not going to spend my energy changing your mind.
It's like, you have a male best friend, now you're in a relationship. You make sure your best friend knows your man.
Absolutely.
You know, and that there is a relationship between the both of them, that you're not like, that he's calling you like, so-and-so is calling me. I gotta go outside.
But my thing is this: if you're not asking to meet all my other home girls, don't all of a sudden take an interest in my other best friend. Like, treat me Don't do special treatment because something is a man or something is a woman because you're sexualizing me when you do. Or you're acting like I have a reason to lie to you. If you knew what I went through, you would understand that I'm not doing nothing that I don't want to do. I'm not doing anything to deceive you because it's wasting my time and it's not in my purpose. Like, it's not. And so I'm not wasting any more of my time with people that just don't understand how I am.
Or have issues with themselves. It's just, that's your own personal. So going back to the letter,
not saying that
these
I
are
ain't
her
been there
own
before,
personal,
but-
right. These are her own personal issues.
Yes.
And this could be turned around to like a male doing the same thing, like, oh, you're with a man and dropped or somebody dropped you off, you're doing something. Just know that there are people out there that have their own trust issues, and that has nothing to do with you. And until they deal with it individually, there's nothing that couples therapy or working through it together is going to work. They have
because they're just learning how to function in the relationship
this
versus
is their
actually fixing
own
inside.
trauma you're fixing.
Yeah.
Well, I always end our episodes with a Bible verse that might tie into something that I've been feeling, and I pull them and I grabbed one. And this one I brought, and it was like one of Satan's lies to us, and is that the trauma you experience it's your fault, and you will forever live with it. So I feel like the devil is always telling you that you're gonna forever live with this. You know, you went through sexual trauma. You went through your mom mistreating you. You went through someone not wanting you. This you will have to live with and carry with you for the rest of your life. And I believe God's truth comes through 1 Corinthians 5:17, where it says, therefore, if anyone in Christ, he is a new creation. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. So it's like when they say you're like you're reborn within Christ. When you really get into it, he is not judging you anymore. He's like, you are new. You are refreshed. You are clean. That you went through is no longer a part of you. That whatever you feel, that pain is no longer, there's no reason for you to carry it with you. Let it go. Because he has cleansed you. You are clean. And now this is just a story that you can tell to help others get through it, because look at you now. Standing tall, head high, moving forwards, falling blessings, on your lap, as some may think. But you've been doing the work, and you were clean, and you got renewed, and it's within Christ, within what you really know, you will be new, and you don't have to carry any of this trauma with you, because he will take it from you. But it's so hard to believe, because I think sometimes before I just, I really was diving into it, I'd be like, what does it mean to listen to God? Let go and let God, let go and let God. And I talk about this all the time, because I have a cousin who's a pastor, and he'd be like, let go and let God. And I'd be cussing like, what the F do you mean? Let go and let God do what? What's this nigga gonna do? Where's he at? I'm letting go. I'm sitting here. But it's not just like, letting go doesn't just mean like sit there. Letting go means you have to do the work. But it's the work to let go, because it's like, oh, that wasn't me. Or let me take accountability for what I've done. You are new. You are reborn. You are cleansed. Now move forward, because some people want to stay in the back and stay dirty.
Well, I also want people to understand. I know that we all interpret like Bible verses and things in our own way, but one of the things that I thought I was good at was letting things go. And I can easily not easily, but I can do a hard cut off, right? I can I know how to protect myself. And one of the things I did was suppress and act like I was fine for years, thinking that I was letting it go. We don't let go of things that we have not handled.
Putting it under the rug.
You do not let go of things you haven't handled. You need to handle it and then let it go. And letting it go does not mean not remembering, because my story is a part of who I am every day. What I'm letting go of is like you said, the hurt. And, there are lots of therapies that help with that. But I'm never letting go of the story, because I have to be able to tell my son the story so he can know this and not repeat the process. And he's a man. Like he's a little man, but he's going to be a man one day, and him knowing like, no, we don't do that. Like not covering up the story. Let it go. Yes. But don't let it go to the point that it can happen again to those behind, at least from this mother, from a mothering standpoint.
Ariel said, I believe she said, tell the truth, shame the devil, is what she said last episode. Tell the truth, shame the devil. Why did she say that? Because people are like, why are you telling your business? Why are you talking? Because there are thousands and millions of people out there that have not heard the story. There are so many people out there that don't know that they can go to a Bible verse, that they can go to a spiritual meeting, that they can go to therapy and feel better, because they feel like, I've been molested, I can't get past it. My mama didn't like me, I can't get past it. I've also had failed relationship after relationship. I'm just stuck. I'm here. I need to be shamed. I have 2 different baby daddies. I have 3, 4, or 5, whatever it is. I should just be ashamed for the rest of my life. That trauma that I experienced, I can't get over it. It's not true. And I keep bringing on people onto this Pivot with Purpose, purpose, because there's a time where you can pivot, where you can change, where you can be reborn and let it go in the past. But I'm also here to tell you it's going to take work. It's not going to be like this. And I want to show you other folks outside of me, you and everyone else that I keep bringing onto this platform, that it says, I could do it. Okay, I'm showing you're showing up every week. Okay, Carla can do it. It's not just me. It's not just Sarah Jakes Roberts. It's not all these, all these big people that you see, because I'm the little one. There's other people.
You think that it was overnight because people aren't sharing their story and not sharing their quote unquote business, but also the reasons that the reason that we're repeating these cycles is because people are not telling the truth and telling the stories, and so we're acting like it doesn't exist and acting like it's the first time. And so we're repeating, the tragic patterns. And so for me, my pivot was from someone's wife, right? And working in a 9-to-5 and living small. And now I own $1 million business, and we're recording in my content house, and I have my own podcast, and I'm sitting down with the woman that I've been admiring for years, and I'm surrounded by the people that I've been looking up to for years, and I'm happy. And happy doesn't not look sad, but it's a pivot that I'm proud of, and the rewards that I received and the less exhaustion that I feel from just being myself. So much exhaustion comes from trying to be liked and to fit in and feel accepted and not lose anyone from telling your truth. But I feel lighter, and it's worth it. So keep going.
I love it. Keep going.
Keep going.
Don't quit.
Just follow your happiness.
And
you
do it even when you're
happy.
scared. Do it when you don't know where the funds are going to come from. Sometimes I say I'm making all of this money. I like it's millions of dollars. But I'm making a lot of money to continue to pay for therapy because it's expensive. It's like God is allowing me to make this money, and because I'm walking in my truth, because I'm being intentional with what I'm doing, and I'm not being like shady with it. I'm just being me, and I'm being my integrity right now is on 1,000, right? Yeah. I don't lie. I'm an open book. And that's why everything keeps coming. It's like, I'm making all this money, but I have to pay. And it's like, guess what? Yeah. You're only able to afford all of these things because you're walking the straight, narrow line and being you, and it comes off of you. But anyway, we talked too damn much, and they just said to me, we went over an hour. We got to get out of here. Should be at some point in time. We work together. So where can they find you? Quickly and swiftly, let's go.
Not just another sex pod on the socials, Instagram, on YouTube. You can find me, Samia Burton. You can Google me. That's a really good one. Just Google Samia Burton and I come up. You can find my episodes on Horrible Decisions and Poor Minds. Know for sure, but guess what? You can just come and binge watch me on my own show, Not Just Another Sex podcast, as well as follow the Content House where we're shooting. If you need to shoot some content, have an event or whatever. Connect with me, and all my links will.
This place is
be
sick,
below.
Y'all. It's sick. So I'll have all her stuff, and you'll keep seeing me post about her because she's around. We're done. Let's get the fuck up out of here. I love you. See you next week.
Ciao.